Up, guys? It's King. What if? You see, so I changed my thing because I was tired of it just being K. Anyway, you read the title. It's a new what if. What if Deku was a Beastman? Now here is the thing. There is another. What if we're doing this? What if? I think his name was like Steel Cage. What if? I mean, you just have to search up what if Deku was a Beastman. Now here's the thing, though. I will say this for the record. I didn't take the idea from him. I was reading that time I got reincarnated as a slime manga, and I was watching, spoilers. I was watching the Carrion versus Malim fight, and I noticed how Carrion could transform. And I was just really rewatching season 2, episode 2, and like episode 7, when like that one dude kept on was like transforming, and like they were transforming, and I had the idea, Beastmen, they're animal people. They're like anime animal people who can transform into animals. So I just thought it'd be really cool. So actually, I wanted to know if anybody else did the what if, because I kind of wanted to do it. And I searched up and I saw that the dude did the what if, but it was recently. And I was like, but it does now. At first, I didn't want to do the what if because he was already doing it. But if I would have took the idea from him, then I wouldn't have done it. But for the fact that I just, wanted to do it because of that time I got reincarnated as a slime, I decided to do it. Now, also before I do, and I do want to say, I will be continuing some other what ifs, like my what if Deku had Miles Morales' powers, and actually, I do think I will continue my what if Bell had one for all, you know. Anyway, let's get into it, okay? Now we're back. I decided to start making my videos with a little bit of music, but let's continue. Oh, this song's called Broad Walk on Broadway or something. Anyway, how this is going to start is lore. To start it off, Deku's family on his dad's side at least, will be a long line of people, and they will have Beastmen quirks, with often them having multiple quirks. Now how this will start is Hasashi himself will be a Beastman, and he will actually be a Phoenix Beastman, because he's a bird and fire powers, so I decided to do that. Now he does run a company overseas, and Midoriya's Beastman. At first, I wanted to make it like a lion Beastman or a dragon Beastman, but I decided not to. So I even wanted to make it a Griffin Beastman, but I decided not. A Phoenix Beastman, but I decided to want Hasashi to do that. So in total, you'll figure out what it is soon. But how it starts is like, it starts out in the Quirk Doctor, as Hisashi and Inko are there. As Hisashi wants to see what he was, Inko, what Midoriya was really gonna get, as the Doctor would be like, yeah, your son, your son is a Griffin Beastman. As like Hisashi would be like, Griffin, aren't those birds, those lion birds? I was like, the doctor would say, yeah, he does, he's like one of those lion birds, they'd say, as also just additional to, your son, he will also have a telekinesis quirk, a small one. I mean, maybe he can lift big things like cars, but still, he'd say, as Musashi would be happy, he'd be happy in his son, as how it would work is, like, Midori would go to school, as, people would be showing off their quirks and everything, but people were still interested in Bako, because he had an amazing quirk and he awakened it early, as, they'd be like, hey, Midoriya, what's like, your quirk? As Midori would be like, yeah, I'm a Griffin Beastman, and I have telekinesis powers. As he'd start to levitate some papers. No, like an All My doll he had, yeah. As you know, oh, to say something else before I start, really, about Midoriya in general with his powers. And as a Beastman, I'm changing his appearance. Mainly just his head. I mean, there'll be like he has a tail and stuff, but mainly just his head. As Midoriya, basically, he has sort of smaller, sharper ears. And Midoriya's eyes are green, but they're a little more wider, sort of like camera's eyes. Now, Midoriya, basically, his hair color. That is something I should talk about. His hair color. Sorry. Now, at the now, his hair color will have 3 different colors in it. At the root of his hair, like where his hair touches his head, that will be blue. And then from that point up, Midoriya will have white hair with small like points of yellow. Anyway, that's it. As Midoriya would start showing off his quirk, and he starts showing off his strength by lifting up chairs, which is impressive for a kindergartner. As you know, Baku would be like, that's kind of cool. I can acknowledge this dude. As you know, it went about Midoriya and Bakugo, they still, play and stuff. As Midoriya, he'd just be out on a walk as a child for some reason. As he'd see Bakugo and his winged friends insulting, or like beating up another boy. As like Midoriya would be like, "That's not cool, man. Come on. How do you want to be a hero but you're bullying people?" As Bakugo would say, "Get out the way, deku." As Midoriya would say, "Hey, who do you think you're talking to? Stop it." He'd say, as the Bakugo and his goons, or his friends, if you want to call them that, would rush at rush at Midoriya, as Midoriya would say, "Stop it," as he'd scream, and there'd be like a loud noise, as it'd be like a screech. As the 2 goons would say, "I'm out of here." As Bakugo would still stay there. As he'd go to attack Midoriya, but there'd be a policeman telling him to break it up, or else he'll call their moms or something. As yeah. Sorry. Oh yeah. Yeah. Kids are scared of that. That I'll call your parents or whatever. Now, Midoriya, after that, they wouldn't really speak to each other that much. They'd still refer to each other by nickname, but it's sort of like the original version where Bakugo really didn't like Midoriya. Midoriya didn't. This time, Midoriya would actually be more confident. Midoriya would act like Bakugo, but just without the ignorance. That's how he'd act. And the ignorance is actually caused by Bakugo's quirk. Not because of how it is, because the nitro, the nitroglycerin sweat goes to his head. And it literally goes to his head, raising his adrenaline. Anyway, but let's continue. As Midoriya would train. Now, Midoriya does have, now, anyway, we jump to, their first year of middle school. Somewhere in, the second quarter, in, somewhere in, the first quarter in, fall or something. Uh, one day Bakugo would say that he wanted to fight Midoriya. Midoriya would say, "Are you serious? Like, come on, bro." I was like, Bakugo would be like, "Yeah, I'm serious. Let's fight." Midoriya would say, "All right." As something I learned about school in America is that most of the school year is in winter. Because, as soon as first quarter ends, it starts being cold, and you spend 1 and 2 you spend about, like, 2.5 quarters, 2.25 of the school year in winter. But let's keep going, actually. Now, like, Midoriya, as you know, they'd meet outside in the parking lot, somewhere where no one could see them and stuff. But, like, they'd say that they were ready to fight, as, Midoriya would be like, okay, Kacham, we haven't done this since that one time a few years ago. Let's see how good you are. As Barco would say, yeah, don't worry about me. As Midori would act, before we start, like, why did you even, like, ask me to fight? Bakugo would be like, because I just got tired of sitting around. And Midori would be like, good point. As, he'd, like, get ready to fight. Now, also, something to note about Midoriya is he's sort of like Chimera. And I'm not talking because how his hands are. Like, his hands are kind of scaly and, like, look like, and he does have sharp claws, but I'm not talking about that. If you watch if you watch the Heroes Rising movie, no spoilers here, but Chimera was really strong. Like, just by punching the air, he was able to knock, he was able to send Shoji flying just by punching the air. And he wasn't even close. He was able to chop Toroki's eyes just by slashing at the air. Midori won't be that strong, but he can create wind pressure. I also did forget to tell you this. Midori will have 3 forms. As, again, this is from that time got reincarnated as a slime. Midori will have his base form, which is like his human form. He will then have his beast form, where he completely does turn into a griffin. And he's gonna have something I will call a perfect form, where it's like a mixture of his beast form and his base form. Anyway, yeah, for Midori's strength, in his base form, he's as strong as maybe 15-20% of One For All. Griffin form, maybe 30. And perfect form, maybe 50. You get it, Midori's strong. Now, Midoriya, as they would start, Bakugo would rush at Midoriya as he'd throw a right hook, which Midoriya would expect, as Midoriya would duck, punching Bakugo in the stomach, sending him, back. But Bakugo would catch himself using the backwards force of his explosions, as, Bakugo would say, oh, Midoriya would say, yeah. And Midori would then run at Bakugo, as Midori's kind of fast, but he'd run at Bakugo, as Bakugo would dodge all of Midoriya's punches, as he was really just throwing obvious punches, as Bakugo would clap his hands, creating sort of like a goodish, like stun grenade explosion, as he would then punch Midoriya in the face. Then he'd start letting off explosions, as Midoriya would, try to scratch Bakugo away, as Bakugo would jump back. As Bakugo would let off a giant, not a giant, but like a big explosion towards Midoriya, as Midoriya would clap his hands as strong as he can, creating a lot of wind pressure, sending the explosion up. And at this point, some pro heroes and just people walking around, because, this is the type of, you know, parking lot that you go take your kids to go learn driving or something like that. So there are always people around in those type of parking lots still. Like this video if you've ever seen that one clip from Bob's Burgers. It was so funny. She hit the only car inside the parking lot. Anyway, as they continue to fight, as Midoriya would say, you're not holding back. I guess I won't, as Midoriya would get on all fours, as he transformed, ripping up some of his clothes, but not all of it, as he'd say, I hope you're ready. Bakugo would say, yeah, as they'd go at each other, as they would both stop, because there'd be something that flies right between their eyes, as it was more like a rock bullet, as they look to see like two cops and a pro hero, as um, they would say, "Stop! You guys are fighting." As they didn't want to get in trouble, so they'd start to run. As Bako would then, use his explosions to get away. As he'd be saying, "Hey, Deku, don't you have wings? Fly." As Midoriya would be like, his wings hurt. And true fact, Midoriya is afraid of heights, and he does want to get over that, especially if he's going to be flying and using his wings, but he's just not ready yet. Which is why when girls not girls, when like people around his school are like, "Hey, can you like fly over the fence and go get our ball?" Or like, "Can you like can I ride you as you fly?" Midoriya always comes up with excuses because he is sort of afraid of heights. As Midoriya, Bako would say, they're gonna catch you because like they're in a cop car, but Midoriya is pretty fast. As Midoriya would say, I guess now's a good time than ever. Midoriya does practice a little, sort of like indoors, or like, like sort of like on his trampoline or something. Not too high, but he can fly a little. Midoriya would open his wings as he'd start running, as he'd jump up in the air flying, as he'd fall down, but he'd get back up running again as he'd jump up in the air flying. As the pro hero, this was like a pro hero who really just wanted to get paid, as he'd start shooting at Midoriya, but Midoriya would use his telekinesis to sort of stop the rock bullets. Now, something that I don't like about the My Hero Academia what ifs is that if you want to create like an extra villain, you're gonna have to give them a quirk or an extra hero. So I decided to give this hero a quirk called Rock Bullet that allows him to shoot bullets of rocks. That allows him to create and shoot bullets of rocks. I got the idea from that the hidden dungeon only I can enter. I'm not gonna lie, the manga is better than the anime if you haven't. Because, like, I remember I read the manga up to the point where that one girl got healed. And after that, I can't really stick to the show. The show started getting boring for me. But when I was reading the show got boring for me after, like, the fourth episode or third. But when I was reading, like, the manga, it wasn't really that boring, you know. This when I was reading the manga, it wasn't that boring. Anyway, and he would start to fly a little, as they'd fly down and stuff, and they'd be outside Midoriya's house because I guess it's closer. Now Midoriya and Bakugo do live sort of close, because if you've seen Bakugo's house, it looks like an apartment. Like when I first saw Bakugo's house, I thought it was an apartment, like an apartment complex, but it's not an apartment complex. Apparently Bakugo's dad is like some sort of fashion designer, and Bakugo's mom was like some sort of model. So that's how they met, I guess. Anyway, what convenience that both of they conveniently met, and they both have sweating related quirks. But anyway, as like Bador would say, "Hey, you want to come in and get like water or something?" As Bakugo would say, "Yeah, sure." As they walked in, as Inko was going to work, as she does have a job in this version. Now, personally, I do sort of have a problem with Inko. I mean, like, I guess you can. No, I'm not sexist, but I'm also not a feminist. Now, I do believe in. Now, I think gender equality is completely true. I'm not sexist, but I am a feminist. I mean, I'm not a feminist, but I'm not sexist. I think, yeah, I said that way wrong. Let me say it one more time. I'm not sexist, and I'm not a feminist. I believe in equal rights. Like, I don't believe men should be paid more or women should be paid more. I only feel like the only time you should treat the two different is if a woman is pregnant. Like, so, like, I personally could not marry a housewife. Because if people can go out and make fun of, a guy for depending on his wife, then I don't see why they can't make fun of a girl. And just my opinion, I can't marry a housewife. So I would, like, Kasashi's like At this point, I think Asashi's like some sort of fisherman, and they live in that small apartment and stuff. Like it's really small and stuff, you know. Like where I am, like my mom, like my mom, like she is a single mother. I mean, we used like yeah, she is a single mother and stuff, and you know, that's probably just where it comes from. Like my mom's a hard worker, but you guys didn't come here to learn about my backstory, now did you? And I'd rather not talk about it. Anyway, yeah, she'd be ready to go to work, as she was a stockbroker. She just loved stocks and Bitcoin. And she is actually rich because she bought over $200 worth of Bitcoin. And if you know Bitcoin, one Bitcoin, if you bought one Bitcoin like years ago, you would have $37,000,000, $37,000. So you know she is a stockbroker, and she does have like about like a million or two because of how much Bitcoin she bought. You know, she's not afraid to take risks in this version. Which probably where Midori gets his attitude from. And she'd walk in and she'd be like, Bakugo, like, is that you? We haven't seen you in a long time. As Bakugo would say, oh, hi, Miss Midoriya. As Bakugo, as, you know, Bakugo would be like, I guess that stock thing did work for you. As you know, Inko would be like, yeah, did your mom also buy some too? As Buckle would be like, yeah, my mom bought some. As you know, Inko would be like, she's probably annoyed with me because I kept on telling her over and over to buy some. You know, she only bought 20, but I bet she wish she would have bought hundreds like I did. As you know, Buckle would be like, yeah, whatever. And Mother would say, Mom, just go to work. As Inko would apologize and stuff for taking the time. And she'd say that there were snacks in the fridge, whatever, you know, moms say. I mean, my mom's never said that. There's snacks in the fridge. Nope. All she says is goodbye. Anyway, you know, they just hang out and say, you know, that was some good times. And to skip this, they just say, let's become friends again. And stuff. You know, let's just become friends. Now, I know this recording is going to cut out. I'm not going to pause it. So, you can expect part 2. If it does cut out, just expect part 2, like, soon. But anyway, Midoriya, like, you know, they become friends, and it would time skip to the end, or, like, to the start of the anime, but the end of this, like, lore backstory. Midoriya, he would be like, you know, running as to school, as he'd start flying, as he would spot like something from a mile away. Not a mile, but he does have really good seeing because of his eaglish eyes, I should say. Anyway, he does have good seeing, as he'd see a villain, and it'd be the same villain that fought Kamui Woods and Mount Lady, as you know, he, you know, to see it like, you know, like being taken down, as he'd start writing notes flying to school. As he'd get to school, and you know, he'd just be writing notes while the teacher was talking. As the teacher would walk in, as they'd be like, okay, students, you know, you guys are third years, you gotta figure out what you want. As the teacher would throw the papers in the air, like, why bother? I know y'all want to go down the hero track. As they'd all be showing off their quirks and stuff from Midoriya and Bakugo and stuff. As Bakugo would jump on the table saying that he was the best out of the class and only him and Deku could get in. As you know, they'd be like, hey, you guys think you're better than us? Midoriya would snap his fingers, as there'd be like a small breeze, like a very small breeze, like just light enough to like move a paper up, like just light enough, like a small blow on a paper, you know, like just like that. As people would get a little like, whoa, you know, I mean, it's not like that impressive, but still, as they'd be like, hey guys, I'm not, you all have, guys, would be like, you all have good potential. I think what Baku's just saying is that we're guaranteed to get in, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. they'd say, yeah, okay. Now, they were a pair of, they were known as like the popular people in school and stuff. As you know, Midori, they had strong quirks, but the main difference between them was Midori was nice, Bako wasn't. But after the class, they would Bako would be like, "Hey, Midoriya, let's go to the arcade." As Midoriya would be like with them, "No, thank you." As Bako would be like, "Come on, why can't you guys just be cool?" As Midoriya would be like, "Look, Bako, me and you, like, we're cool, but your friends, I just don't like them." As they'd say, "Hey, you got a problem with us?" As they take they take Midoriya's notebook, saying, "Oh, look at him, trying to take notes on how to be a hero." As Midoriya would look at them, like, as they angrily, like, sort of how he looked at Bako in the first episode. Like, the way he looked at Bako, I honestly thought he was gonna do something. Like, how many of you guys, like, comment if you want to, but how many of you guys, when watching My Hero Academia for the first time, when you saw that part where Deku looked at Bakugo angrily, like, like, he was, like, we all thought Deku was about to do something, or, like, Deku was that type of main character who is weak, but, like, will fight and, like, get bloody if he has to. Anyway, yeah. I was in academia when I was in 8th grade. I'm pretty sure I'm like a freshman now. Anyway, let's continue. As Midori would say, yeah, as Midori would decide to walk home, as he wasn't really going to do anything today. As Midori would be walking, as he'd stop because he'd hear something with his enhanced hearing, as it would be a sewer system, as Sejun would come out. Now Sejun would go to grab Midoriya, as it would grab Midoriya, as the Sejun was like, let me take over your body. As Midoriya would be moving around, as Sejun would be thinking, wow, this kid is strong. Midoriya would be like, I don't think so, he'd say, as he'd like, that move where, like, lots of people are on top of one person and the person, like opens both their arms. Yeah. As the Slenderman would go everywhere, but there'd be a main chunk of him, as they'd be like, this kid is strong. Midori would be like, I don't know who you thought you were taking over, but it wasn't going to be me, he'd say, while, like, getting his claws ready. As the Slenderman would be like, haha, nice try, kid. My body's made of sludge. You might be able to, like, force me off, but you can't cut me. He'd say, as All Might would say, but I know I can take care of you. Wait, no. All Might would be like, it doesn't matter if you can't be cut. You know why? Because I am here. And the droid would be like, it's All Might, as All Might would do the Texas smash, as, and Midoriya would be okay, cause as the children would go everywhere. Midoriya would see All Might and immediately rush to him like, sign my notebook, please. As All Might would sign his notebook, as Midoriya, would be like so happy and stuff. As All Might would tell Midoriya bye, as Midoriya would let All Might leave, because it's not like he has any questions to ask him. Midoriya is still the big fanboy, but still. Now, let's continue. Basically, Midoriya called Bako and tell him what happened. Bako would be like, man, that's cool. Midoriya would say, hey, I just realized we gotta get serious if we want to get into UA. As Bako would be like, are you sure? As Midoriya would be like, yeah, let's go. Meet me at a Kahano beach. Midoriya would say, as they'd say, yeah. Now, the next few weeks they'd meet, as Midori would be like, we're going to clean this entire beach for strength training, and after we clean that, we're going to go to the YMCA and do swim training to increase our, like, capacity, and then we're going to go to, like, a big track and do track training to, speed, and we're just going to do that, as Bako would agree, as his summer was wide open. I don't know how Bako trained, but still. Now, they do the same thing, cleaning up the beach within 4 months, because there was a lot of trash on that beach. And, like, I'm surprised. I mean, how did all that trash wash up? Like, how did whole refrigerators wash up? And why are people dumping refrigerators in the sea? Like, I remember watching this one sad video about a turtle who got a straw stuck up his nose, but it was removed, but still, it was just sad to watch, you know. But still, oh, I also watched this another one with a turtle got trapped in one of those like soda can things, like where like the 6-pack is inside. As it ended up growing up deformed. Now, first I didn't think of anything of it, but now that I'm actually rethinking of it, the turtles in like spine and rib cages might have been shaped weirdly. Like, if you're reading this, like, just throw your trash away, recycle. Like, come on, please. Anyway, as they train and they'd be ready. You know, they would train and they would be ready for the exam. They would walk to the exam, as flying is sort of not allowed, I guess, which is stupid. Hey, I have a question. You know how there's no, like, they say there's no authorized quirk usage or something, which is kind of stupid, because technically quirks are a part of you, so telling someone not to use their quirks, that's like telling somebody not to play with their hair, or to shave their hair, you get it? But anyway, do you think people, like, quirks that allow them to fly are allowed to use their quirks? Or is it gonna be like, you could just, instead of using your quirk, you need to pay for like a train ticket to help the economy or something. Anyway, Midoriya, uh, they'd go to you, they'd walk in and they'd still sit down, as Midoriya wouldn't really be talking a lot, but he would still, like, see President Mike and be like, that's cool. And they'd go to their different examinees. To the examinee places, as Midoriya would be stretching, as he'd notice Uraraka, as he could sort of smell the fear off of her, if you would say so, or just see the fear. As Midoriya would walk to Uraraka, as Ida would say, hey, you can't just interrupt her. And also, you were sort of messing with everybody else when you were murmuring and stretching. Ida would say, but Midoriya would say, there's nothing wrong with it. I was just stretching and I just want to calm her down. Like, she's afraid. As Wako would say, that's exactly why you can't, touch her. As, Midoriya would be like, yeah, but she's just afraid I can calm her down. As they'd be arguing, as President Mike would tell them to stop it, as the exam was starting in like a minute or two, as they look, as Uraraka would be gone. People were being drawn by their argument, as she probably wanted to go to a quieter place. As Ida would just move aside, as Roy would get a little mad, but it's okay, it's cool. Now, the match would start, as Midoriya would start out running, as he'd open his wings flying, as Midoriya would see a robot, as he'd completely ram through it using his head. And this is something for the My Hero Academia 2 movies. 2 heroes. Now, this isn't a spoiler, so don't be worried. When, Deku went into that time trial race thing, that time trial event thing, basically, he had to, like, destroy 15 robots and, like, as quick as possible. How I know it's 15, because Deku got, like, 14, and I'm pretty sure he destroyed, like, 15 robots. Anyway, basically, Deku with 5% was able to one-shot all those robots quickly, too. So he could even just jump off them and they would destroy. So these robots are very weak. And it's actually expected for these kids who haven't really matured their quirk that much, for them to be expected to destroy these heavy pieces of robots. Because if you notice, the robot, the armor from the 1, 2, and 3-point robots were completely different from the 0-point robot. As when Deku punched that robot with 100%, the head didn't pop off, or his hand didn't go through. There was a dent in the robot's head, which is completely different from, a robot actually exploding. Now, Deku would realize that these were weak robots, as he had just rammed through a 2-pointer. Midoriya would go to multiple robots, just one-shotting them and scratching them with his claw, as he'd also just use his telekinesis to, like, rip off their legs. As he'd also just pick them up and throw them into other robots. As one time when he's stomping on a robot just for overkill, he just gets saved by Aoyama. As he's like, I could have handled that myself, but thanks, man. As he'd fly off, as, Aoyama being Aoyama. And, he'd be destroying robots as he'd be like, how many points do I have again? I stopped, like, counting, And, I'm gonna, he'd be like, I stopped counting again. There'd be a giant explosion as they'd look as, it'd be the 0 point robot. Or I would say, there's no use fighting that thing. So let me just go. As Midoriya would, like, spot like Uraraka, as Midori would start to run as he transformed into his beast mode, where he'd start running quickly. As wait a minute. Sorry. Anyway, I'm back. Look, I know how I explained Deku's appearance. It's still the same, but I could only really find one good picture of like a griffin version of Deku. I'll probably try to make my own, but I'm not an artist, okay? I can't draw. I can't even draw a stickman, okay? So, I think I'll make a what if in the future concerning about this image right here. But anyway, that's like the only image I could really find. What if Deku was like a griffin, sort of? No, he doesn't necessarily look like this. His head is a little more balder, but has just have hair. So like now basically, Midoriya returned to his griffin form, as he would ram right at the head of the robot, as the robot would still be staggering, as you know Midoriya would like take his claws and start to scratch at the heart of the robot, like flying in, as he'd start to bite the cords and whatever, kicking and everything, as he'd fly out as the robot would tip over. As he's laying on the ground, using his telekinesis to finish off the robot on top of old Rocket. He asked if she was okay while de-transforming into like his human, to his base form. As Rocket would say, yeah, thanks for saving me. As Midori would be like, nah, it's okay. There's anything a hero would have done. As Recover Girl would come, as Midori would take her to the Recovery Girl, and that would be it. Roy would then get the letter where he would be like, yeah, and stuff, as my brother would call his dad, who does work, who is like the head of a company abroad, again. Now, okay, and he'd be in as, and he'd meet Bako at school a week later to, like, tell him, as, they would be congratulated for getting to UA, and everything would be good. And that's where I'm going to leave this off. Now, this was a long part, and probably going to cut off soon. But before I go, something about Midoriya's family is these Beastmen, they are known. As the reason why I said that was because they have known to be good pro heroes. They've also been known to be like, great villains and bodyguards. Which is why they run a bodyguard thing. Sort of like a militia. If you know what a militia is, they're basically an army for hire. It's basically a whole army that you can hire. Like if there's like a dictator who hires them, you get it, or if there's like a pro hero or government who hires them. They're not all beastmen. It's more like just a family thing. As Midori does have cousins who are beastmen and stuff. You'll see like one or two of them in the future. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the what if. Subscribe if you want. Okay.